Hello, NSU fans, and welcome to our first Spartan Sideline report of the 2013 softball season here on NSUSpartans.com. I'm Ross Gordon, the play-by-play voice of NSU, joined by Mike Bello, Assistant Sports Information Director, and softball head coach Heidi Cavallo. It's mid-February already, and that can only mean that the spring sports season is almost here. We're less than a week away from NSU softball's first games of the season. The Spartans finished third last year in the MEAC Northern Division and went 24-25 overall, the second most wins for the program in its Division I era. And with that being the backdrop of this, Mike, if the Spartans have gotten better over the last 3 years, the only thing you can do is expect more this year.
Yeah, and you can ask the team, and their expectations are sky high this year. You know, 2 years ago when Coach Cavallo first came over, they had a 9-win improvement, 6-6 in the conference. Last year, they were really fighting for first place in the Northern Division. So this year, with a lot of the players back, a good portion of the players back, plus some freshmen who can step up right away, they're really looking at, you know, regular season, it's first place or bust in the Northern Division, and they're really looking to advance farther in the MEAC tournament than they have recently.
Great schedule, great home schedule as well. We'll talk to Coach Cavallo about that as the program goes along. But I think one of the huge things is now the expectations, they tend to lean more now to the players as well, because you look at where the Norfolk State team has come from and what people think of them, as Haley Ward was named the preseason MEAC Player of the Year for her efforts last year. People are starting to notice the program for more than just what we have been.
Yeah, and you know, obviously, team kind of struggled there through some of the early 2000s. Had a good season where they went 13-1 in the MEAC like 6-7 years ago, but then they kind of fell apart there for a little bit. Now they're coming back, and you know, you can, like I said, you can ask the players, and their expectations are, you know, we're ready to compete for that championship, and you know, they feel like they're right in that dogfight with Delaware State and with Hampton as far as finishing in the top of the Northern Division standings this year.
Bethune Cookman won a championship last year, looking to win the first championship as a softball head coach at Norfolk State this year will be Heidi Cavallo. First of all, Coach, you look at and what we just talked about, the expectations. One, they can either crumble you or they can make you play better. Talk a little about the expectations on this team.
From the get-go in August, we set our expectations high. The girls know exactly what we're expecting from them. We know what they're expecting from us as a coaching staff. It's the hardest working team we've ever had, and they go out there day in and day out talking about those expectations and working towards them. The key is just being consistent and using those expectations to push us.
You know, last year, Coach, you guys proved that you're capable of being that top level team in the MEAC. You know, you went up to Delaware State and took the first 2 of that series, a team that finished first in the Northern Division. But then you had other times where, you know, you dropped 2 of 3 against Howard, who didn't even make the MEAC tournament. So what's going to be the key, like you were saying, talking about consistency, what's going to be the key for you guys to maintain consistency throughout the season?
I think our mental approach. We weren't consistently mentally ready for each game, and I think that was the biggest thing. Athletically, we could get it done. You know, the Del State game, the third game, we just weren't mentally there. We weren't a mentally prepared number 1 team like we were the day before. So I think the mental approach is big this year for us.
Not only do you have Haley Ward and other players coming back, but you also have huge impact players coming in, junior college transfers, and you have some freshmen who can come in and play right away. Let's talk first about what is most important in this game, and that's pitching. And it's huge that we really got a huge key piece in recruiting when it comes to pitching.
Right. I mean, we have 3 returning pitchers, and then including Stephanie, who's a junior college transfer. She's a pitcher we have never had before on a staff. She throws hard, and we're looking for her to jump right in and make an impact for us. We need to get ahead of teams and have strikeouts. I think that's key. Ground ball outs is key, and you know, not giving up 1 or 2 key hits, which is where we kind of were last year. We throw really good games as a pitching staff, and then 1 bad pitch would change the game for us, and we're working really hard to make sure that doesn't happen this year.
And Coach, you know, obviously you got the pitching, you got the strong pitching this year with Liz Riley, Jamie Shuley back. You know, they pitched well last year, and Stephanie Wheatley, obviously the junior college pitcher. But you also got a couple of big bats coming in, freshmen that you're expecting big things out of right away to kind of replace that power you lost with Whitney Holland and Daniel Wright.
Right. We have Clara, who is going to be a freshman third baseman for us. She can swing the bat really well. She had a phenomenal high school career. She's very powerful. And then we have Whitney Williams from North Carolina, who's a freshman who, I mean, probably one of the hardest home runs I've seen this spring going live. She hit it hard, and we're looking for her to step right in and make the adjustments needed in the college game and do big things for us.
You're talking about players like Morgan Boyd coming back. She's a first-team All-MEAC preseason pick. You also have Gypsy Ramirez, who's coming back. Kathy Cortez to anchor really the infield. You're going to have some younger players on the corners probably. But you look pretty sound still defensively, and that's one of the huge things, and especially in the softball game, where runs are pretty much at a premium if you have a good softball team. Defense is going to be a key. Talk a little about how you guys have come from last year where we had a couple of innings where defensively we just weren't there to this year where defense is going to have to be the key.
I think that all goes back to our mental approach. We broke defensively everything down to the little things. If we go in and day out to make our little things perfect, it's going to help come game time. We've talked about mental approaches and us controlling other offenses. And I think we kind of got flustered last year. We are a little bit younger, but we can't have that happen this year in big games. They have to stay mentally strong. And if they perfect the little things day in and day out, they should be good come game time.
And obviously in the outfield too, losing Daniel Wright in center. Center field is one of the most important positions on the field. You're moving Morgan over there to center. Talk about that transition and then also talk about you having Heather Dunning, another freshman who's going to be out there in the outfield, and what she brings both in the field and at the plate.
We've definitely made the move from Morgan over to center. It's given her so much room to be just a really quick outfielder. It's changed her game. And right field is so different from center field. She had a really good fall. We're really excited for her. I mean, she's still learning the position and learning to be just defensively strong out there and control the outfield. But with her speed combined with Haley Ward and then now freshman Heather Dunning, we cover a lot of ground out there, which is really nice. And we get the ball in really quick and strong, which is key to keeping runners, to a minimum.
Also, which keys the schedule. You always look at the schedule and you say you have that preseason part of the schedule, which is the non-conference matchups. Then you have the media schedule, which is the conference matchups, and then you have the postseason, which is really says it all about where your team is going to go. Talk a little about your schedule this year and how that has looked, and what do you feel like you're going to get from your schedule this year with your team?
We definitely have a successful schedule, I think. I think we've set ourselves up to, right out the get-go, get really good wins for us, see what we have. We're playing some strong tournaments, our own 2 tournaments that we're hosting, along with going down to Campbell and the University of Delaware. I mean, these teams are going to push us, and we'll be able to see right away where we're at for the season. And then going into conference, we should have a pretty set lineup before we step foot into any conference series.
And speaking of the home tournaments, you got 2 home tournaments to start the year. I mean, you start the year at North Carolina Central, but you got 2 home tournaments right after that. So you guys it's about 9 games. You guys can really kind of get settled into your lineup, like you were saying, see how these freshmen can work their way into the lineup without having to really leave town at all.
Right. I mean, that's key for us. We try to do it every year. Being at home makes such a difference. We have such a local group of girls. We have a great fan base now, and I think it gives their nerves, calm down a little bit, and they get settled into the lineup and settled into their positions. I think it really helps them being at home.
You talked about that home atmosphere, being that this is a very talent-rich area. Talk a little bit about how recruiting here has really helped your team, because a lot of the players that we mentioned who have made great strides for us are from this area.
Hampton Roads is a wonderful softball community. There's some extremely strong players, and we're fortunate to have recruited them and have them on our program. It's also helped that they're here year-round. They're working out in the gym, and they're working out together on their own, which has been really big for us. The parents have been wonderful. We have more fans out at our games, and that means the most, to the girls when we have that fan base out there day in and day out for our home games.
Coach Cavallo, always a pleasure to talk to you. Now it's time to take another look around NSU for other things going on in the athletic department as we take this time for the Spartan Sideline Sports Minute with Chandrea Lee.
Thanks, Ross, and hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first installment of the Spartan Sideline Sports Minute. I'm Chandrea Lee, and I'm here to bring you all of the news and notes going on around the Norfolk State Athletics program. The NSU women's tennis team split their 2 matches last weekend, sweeping Christopher Newport 7-0 before falling to South Carolina State 7-0. They now sit at 3-2 overall, and are now 1-1 in the conference play, and will take to the courts again on February 23rd against North Carolina Central in Durham, North Carolina. The bowling team had last weekend off, but they returned to the lanes this weekend as they travel to Baltimore, Maryland. The Spartans look to improve on their 40-26 record as they participate in the James Brown Invitational February 15th through the 17th. The women's track team also competes this weekend as they travel to Prince George's County to try and capture the 2013 MEAC Indoor Track and Field Championships at the Prince George's County Athletic Complex. The Spartans are led by junior Champagne Bell and a very strong group of field performers, and will need a huge performance from their young sprinters led by Brittany McCants and Tori Cunningham, if they want to take down the reigning champs, the Hampton Lady Pirates. And finally, the women's basketball team will have this Saturday off, but will travel across the water to take on the Hampton University Lady Pirates in the Battle of the Bay, the basketball way, on ESPNU with a special game time of 4:30 p.m. That will do it for this week's edition of the Spartan Sideline Sports Minute. I'm Chandrea Lee, and now back to you, Ross.
Thanks, Chandrea. The Spartans begin their 2013 softball season on Wednesday, February 20th at North Carolina Central. NSU opens its home schedule on Saturday, February 23rd for the first day of the Spartan Clash at the NSU softball field. NSU will play 22 home games this year, including MEAC opponents Howard, UMES, and Delaware State, and host a pair of tournaments, the Spartan Clash February 23rd through the 24th, and the Spartan Classic March 2nd through the 3rd. As always, we'd like to thank the NSU Creative Services Department for all of their help today, as well as Coach Cavallo for her time. For all the news on Norfolk State athletics, please log on to the web at www.nsuspartans.com. For Mike Bello and Coach Cavallo, I'm Ross Gordon. Thank you for watching the Spartan Sideline Report on NSUSpartans.com.